1,400 in Geneva. I believe the same time we got in Malta, and Ludo, you are in Belgium.
Belgium, it's the same. Yep.
Okay, so we got 2 p.m. Central European time and as promised, and we start. Thanks God, all the connections are working okay. Today I got a great day of my life because the topic of whether credit management could be great and could deliver outstanding results is actually boiling my mind for the last at least 15 or 17 years since I've read the book by Jim Collins, Good to Great. I don't believe good to great approach is applicable directly to credit management, but this is actually the subject of our discussion to see whether or not we as a credit people we could deliver outstanding results. What are these results and what is needed to do it? And having that, maybe we'll discover that, maybe we will fail. I don't know. As I told to speakers, we don't know what's going to be the result of today's discussion. We will just try. But if we are lucky enough, perhaps we will see the guiding light of that greatness and how the future credit function could be. For that, I'm very pleased to introduce my today's guests. Mr. Ludo Theunissen, professor, let me say today, professor of credit management, professor of corporate finance, and president of Federation of European Association of Credit Management, and former president of the same association and lead of Malta Association of Credit Management and director of Credit Management Institute of Malta, Mr. Josef Busuttil. Please welcome our guests. And as I said in the beginning, there is nothing prepared. We just have a discussion between us three and try to find the way how we can make credit management great. May I ask Ludo and Joseph, may I ask you to just say a couple of words on how do you represent yourself, what you do in life, how you answer the question, who I am.
You start, Ludo.
Okay, good. Well then, I am Ludo Theunissen, and I have actually, I have a bit of a special career in that sense that my original education was in engineering. So I graduated in engineering, but then I did a course of management. And in my first job, I ended up in finance. And I found the area of finance, corporate finance, so fascinating that I got stuck in it. So the rest of my life, I have been working in finance, corporate finance. I've been running around in the business world for many years, also a couple of years in Brazil and so on. But at a given moment, I came back to the academic world at the Vladik Business School, where I had studied before. And there I ran the research center on credit management. And later on, then I started with the Belgian Institute of Credit Management, and at that moment also became a member of FECMA. And at that moment also, I became a professor at Ghent University. That job at university ended. It's now a bit more than a year ago that I did my last course there, because I am, in the meantime, I am retired, which gives me more time now to work for FECMA and for the Institute of Credit Management in Belgium. So I'm, let's say, a very busy retired person. That's more or less what I am doing, let's say, professionally. But I think that's the things that are at stake today.
Thank you, Ludo. Thank you. Joseph?
First of all, I would like to congratulate Ludo for his retirement.
Yes.
I didn't know that he fully
one
retired.
of the greatest accomplishments in life. And actually, Sorry for cutting you for a bit. That's the way of retirement I look for myself, actually.
Yeah,
Because I think I'm the youngest guy in the room, but that's the way I would like to retire myself.
So happy retirement, my friend Ludo.
Thank you.
I'm Josef Busuttil. I'm from Malta. I started my career as a bank official with one of the major banks in Malta. Now it is HSBC Malta Limited. Then after 5 years at the bank, I moved on and I worked in a financial services company, one of the major services company in Malta again. And my role was consulting and helping or assisting people and companies in investments. During my time at the investments and brokerage, I studied marketing. In fact, I have a postgrad in marketing with the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK. And then I moved on and I started up Malta Association of Credit Management, and that was 20 years ago. So this year we are celebrating electronically or virtually our 20th anniversary.
That's good for congratulations.
That was 20 years ago now. I started all this association in Malta 20 years ago. The only institutions that used to observe or practice credit management, pure credit management, were only the banks. But luckily enough, I'm proud to say that today in Malta, a number of industries have embarked to good credit management practices when they grant and manage their credit. In the meantime, I studied with Henley Business School and I obtained my master's there, my MBA. I joined FECMA in the early years of MACM, so that must be some 18 years ago. Like Ludo, I was always very active in FECMA. Spent 12 years as deputy president of FECMA and 4 years as FECMA president. And now we have Ludo as our president. We have a very good team, and the scope of FECMA is to promote good credit management practice all over Europe and beyond. Basically, that is me.
I know that, but for the audience. And I mean,
Andre, we've met in a number of conferences all over the world.
Absolutely.
Because I deliver presentations and workshops and lectures over the world, in almost all continents except Australia. The last time I traveled was in South Africa. I did 2 presentations and a workshop there, and that was last year. I had my jab my first shot of the jab last week. I'm looking forward to the second one to put me on the plane and continue doing what I love to do.
Yes. Okay, I will just add a couple of humble words about who I am and why I'm allowed to say so. Thanks Ludo mentioned Ludo mentioned engineering diploma, because I got my master's in engineering from, I'm still Soviet engineer, but due to different circumstances, I had to start from the bottom of credit management. So I started from collecting debts. Very many famous economists were doing this job. I mean, I think only Glenn Bullivant had worse first job than me, but that's the story. So I managed to grow up from cash collection, by the way, in the bank, similarly to you, Joseph. And I grew up changing companies, careers, and banks. I grew up to managing quite big portfolio of GT International, and since 2014, I am leading my credit engineering. It's a consulting firm in credit management. I do continue to promote the best practices in credit management and mainly best results. So thanks God, I am not the wisest man in the room. So I'm sure I'm exactly in the right room. Okay. Our format, we got 3 questions to discuss. They're quite simple. You've seen them before. I didn't ask you for your answers before, so make sure we got that in trick, and we make sure we got this really live discussion like we normally have on conferences. I believe, Josef, just to finish with that, I believe we have to meet in America and Australia as well, and in Asia. We met in Europe, we met in Africa, we got 3 continents, and finally, I believe one day I will have a chance to see Ludo with you in person. So our first question, quite wide one, whether or not a credit function of a company, irrespectively of industry, irrespectively of organization, could be great. And under the greatness, I believe we need to use the definition set by Jim Collins, whether or not this function is able to deliver an outstanding results. And maybe you can say, what are these results, how they could look like, what are the tangible results of credit function, and if we can call them outstanding, how they're supposed to look like. What's your opinion on this topic? Who's first? Yeah, Joseph, please.
First of all, I apologize because I didn't thank you for this opportunity. So thank you, Andrei.
My pleasure.
Job and
literally my pleasure.
So I welcome also the participants. So please do ask question and do participate, because the more you talk, the more beneficial to you and your company. Am I right, Andrei?
Absolutely, and I just reconfirmed the thing, and because I think, thank you for helping me doing my job as a moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, please type your questions, raise your hands. We will try to answer your question. We will try to connect with, because in the end we will have question and answer session where we will be answering your questions. But if you got questions right now, please type them in chat, and we will try to answer them. Yeah.
Okay, so coming back to your question, Andrei, I gave it a bit of a thought, and I question myself. The same question, basically. Mm-hmm. Credit function be great, but be great in what? Are we talking about making the credit function more visible within an organization? Are we saying that making it great by employing the best people that are possibly available in the job market in order to manage our cash flow, mm-hmm. our receivable? Isn't it great, or are we talking about making the credit function great by means of selling more to our customers? Is it all about decreasing the day sales outstanding? Yeah. Saying that the credit function could be great by making the people working in the field of credit management move out of their comfort zone, of their offices, go out, meeting people, mm-hmm. doing, or rather developing good customer relationship in order to increase sales? Are we saying that making the credit function great by means of building good relationship internally, especially with the sales guys, especially with the sales team? What are we saying exactly? And I think that these are all important.
Mhm.
However, in my humble opinion, making the credit function great is when the people employed at the credit function are motivated enough to listen to the needs of the customers,
Yes.
to discuss these needs with the sales team, and following the trigger of the sale, coming from the sales people, obviously,
Mhm.
these people working in the field of credit management will analyze the creditworthiness of that prospective customer, because credit is both costly and also carries an element of risk.
Sure.
And therefore, together with the other departments, especially with the sales team, because we do give credit in order to increase sales, that's basically it.
There is no other reason.
Because otherwise, it would be much more easier for an organization
Yes.
to sell cash on delivery.
Mhm.
Obviously, we all know that without granting credit, unfortunately, we don't sell, or we don't sell as we don't reach our sales targets. And therefore, together with these sales people and with other internal departments, we analyze the creditworthiness of our prospective customer at the onset, following discussion with the customer and listening to the customer to know their needs, to exactly understand their needs, and come up with the appropriate competitive credit terms profitably, and profitably is underlined and bold. And we should come up with this profitable credit terms, not alone, not without consulting the other departments, but we should arrive in granting such credit terms together with the other departments, including the sales team. That is my how I would make the credit function great in the long term.
Yeah, we are talking about, because I was wanting to highlight that original, this concept of good to great was just about outstanding results delivered over, let's say, 15 years. That's what about that. Ludo, what's your opinion?
Well, to be honest, I have heard a lot of let's say, the important elements of credit management have been mentioned by Joseph. Not surprising, since he has already a very long experience in the area. I think it's good to emphasize that credit management is not just one function or just one thing that people in credit management are doing. The important thing is that you find the right equilibrium between the different things that you have to do. On one side, you have the risk, and you have to make sure that the risk is not gone completely, but that your risk is managed, that you know what kind of risk you're incurring, and that means that you need, let's say, all the technical skills to make a good creditworthiness analysis.
Mm-hmm.
But as Joseph also mentioned, this analysis is not only a technical or an analytical process. You have to do this together with your customers, together also with your salespeople, because in many cases, your salespeople have a lot of information about your customers. They have information about your customers, about their competitors, about the markets they are working in, and so on. And it's very important to have this information as well, to be able to include it in your technical analysis of the creditworthiness and the potential future profitability of a customer. That's one part, one side. Mm-hmm. Let's say the more preventive part of credit management, where it's pretty technical and very important to work together with others. But then also the next step is, of course, the relation with the customer. Credit management is customer relation, and customer relation along with and together with your sales colleagues. Don't see them as competitors. They are our colleagues. We're working for the same company. We have the same targets that we should reach. So working and always considering the importance of your credit, of your customer relations, and also the collaboration with sales is a key element in this case. So these are, I think, the two elements that we could start with when we talk about, let's say, great results obtained by credit management. Make sure that your customer relation is okay and that your risk is controlled.
Thank you. Because I didn't expect too much differences between what to say, but the credit management function, you know, the last thing we could say about credit management function is that it is simple. It is not that simple, because we got usually superposition of, I don't know, of about, I mean, depending on how do we count, we got sales, we got general management, we got finance, we got treasury, we got accounting, and this everything is only within the company, plus we got customers, plus we got suppliers, and all these relations are to be satisfied. And on top of that, obviously, we need to analyze credit risk, and there is cost of credit, there is credit risk. And we all remember that, I mean, I used to ask a very simple question. What is the ultimate reason for accounts receivable to exist? And for sure, this is not to create job for credit managers. No, accounts receivable exist to help company to sell and to remain competitive. And as Josef, you know, very rightly said, the key element of that is actually terms. We need to make sure that terms are adequate to the current situation, adequate to customer business, adequate to our business, adequate meaning we remain profitable and the level of risk is acceptable and at least known, and they are adequate to current economic situation on the market. Sorry, I have to put on my pads because. So the credit but this is not all the credit management stuff, because also no one takes out of credit management control over receivables, and no one takes out of credit management the necessity to collect cash, because sooner or later we have to come to customer and not only have good discussion, which I completely support. We need to come and to sit with we as credit managers, hand in hand with sales, with marketing, with our strategy, supposed to go to customers, take a seat, have a seat with customers and find a way how two companies can have more successful business. But sooner or later, we have to come to customer and collect cash in intelligent way, but we need to make sure we are paid. And this everything is actually credit management, and that's what company expects from credit management and from us as credit managers. We got several opinions from our audience. Tim Lane says that one of ways to make credit great is to offer the team members the very best in academic education and qualification, together with tools to do their job to the very best of their ability and on day-to-day basis. Could not disagree. Another opinion from Paul Dawson, to nurture a passion of credit management with the team by setting smart goals. And this is why, Paul, thank you very much for this comment. Again, there are a couple of questions. Do you use software from credit management and collection? And now we got discussion about that and about artificial intelligence. But about goals, I do thank Paul for this question. And we will continue with because I would like us to move and in a very, in this tiny ice where there is no obvious answers, but we will try to make it obvious. When we look, imagine the company has great credit function. We don't know how does it look like. We don't know how, how the company reached that moment. But if we look at tangible results which are delivered by a credit function, because credit function does not exist for itself, how would these results look like? Whatever. I don't say there is one specific metric. We all three of us wrote articles that receivables could not be described by one metric, and DSO is the least. But not about DSO. Just in terms of numbers, when we say outstanding results, how these outstanding results may look like, I don't know, guiding light.
Andrei, first of all, we cannot take the credit function in isolation.
Absolutely.
The credit function is there together with the other functions, together with the other departments. The problem that I see, probably all over the world, is unfortunately the credit department is left alone collecting dues, which shouldn't be the case. It should be part of the whole corporate strategy.
Absolutely.
Should fit in the corporate strategy together with the other departments. Why I'm saying this? Because the credit function is there to make sure that that organization has sound cash flow. If there is something which we should learn from this pandemic, is surely that a company should have sound cash flow at all times. Those companies which lacked or used to lack sound cash flow, now they are struggling, or probably they have closed their doors. And therefore, the credit function should be part and parcel, part of the corporate strategy, in the way that they should be doing more visits to customers, building relationships. Why? Because the market out there, if we analyze the market, and I'm talking in general here, but practically all markets, all industries are suffering from lower demand. The demand for the products or services are on the decrease, especially during this year of the pandemic. The products and the services that we provide are probably homogeneous. They look the same. I don't want to say exactly the same, but almost the same, very similar, with very little scope for differentiation. And if we think outside the box and use the credit function wisely, I would say that the credit function has a very important role to play in this whole scenario. Because the credit people, or the people working in the field of credit management, they can be competent enough or skilled enough to differentiate the products or the services that we are providing. Just last week, I was delivering some in-house training in a big company, or relatively big company. And these people, this company, is in the business of selling utensils. And unfortunately, as you know, currently the HoReCa industry, the hotel and restaurant industry, are going through very, very tough times. However, these people who are involved in who are managing credit in this organization got this opportunity to make more or to build better relationship with their customers during the pandemic, I'm saying. Instead of using the telephone, they are using platforms like this one that we are using today, Zoom or Teams or whatever. Therefore, the customers now are putting a face to a voice, and therefore they are building better credit, better relationship with the customer. They are also using negotiation skills with their customers in order to find the best way for the customer to pay them. So they are negotiating payment terms and payment programs. And this is extremely important, especially today during this unfortunate pandemic. They are taking this opportunity to get closer to the customer, to understand the customer's needs and come up with a win-win situation through negotiation. So negotiation skills are extremely important, or has become extremely important more than ever. And coupled to this, they have the time to meet up with the other departments, not only the sales team. So for example, the department which are taking care of the deliveries, for example. The warehousing.
Which is difficult to overestimate.
Yes, and therefore the credit function is there, in my opinion, and would be great and would get outstanding results if the people employed in the credit function know exactly how the internal processes and systems work. Because I see the credit function as the fulcrum of the organization. It is exactly in the middle, knowing all the departments. They should have relationship with each and every department because they touch literally each and every department in order to give good service to our customers. In fact, why do our customers pay late? There are various reasons, there are various excuses, but most probably, or the majority of these excuses or reasons, let's say reasons, not excuses for the time being.
Yeah.
The main reasons are because the customer perceives, he may be right, he may be wrong, but he may perceive that somewhere in the line, something went wrong. And who should resolve these issues? The credit practitioner.
Absolutely.
The credit practitioner is doing the customer is doing the customer care job of the credit function. And therefore, to get outstanding results, and outstanding results, as you said, Andre, earlier on, in terms of monetary and financial and cash flow, he needs to be competent enough to build bridges, not only with the external customer, but also with the internal customer. Who are the internal customers? Your colleagues within your departments. If the customer has an issue with the delivery, you should have good relationship with the delivery team and you resolve the problem so that it won't happen again. Again, a number of issues crop up from problems that the customers find when they receive their invoice.
Yes.
Go to the guy issuing the invoice and see how can they resolve these issues. One thing to keep in mind, please, everyone, unless you know why the customer is paying late, the customer will never pay you.
I have to stand up here. Yeah,
This is my humble opinion from my experience that I get when I meet businesses, and as you know, Andre, I've met a number of businesses all over the world. I have helped them like you do during my consultancy work that I do with these people, and I'm being very practical. I'm trying to be very practical. Of course, we need software. Of course, we need smart goals. Of course, we need people who are skilled enough and who went through all the credit management programs and training. Of course, we do need these people, but we need people who are practical people, who know the market, people who know exactly what credit management is all about.
So the attitude first. Then,
yes, definitely.
Then intelligence, attitude, intelligence, and then let's say attitude, intelligence, and then final result. So we're supposed to have less overdue. We're supposed to have less bad debts. We're supposed to have better customer satisfaction, and which supposed to lead to more sales. But this should not.
Excuse me, not to more sales. I can sell ice to Eskimos, not to sales, to profitable sales, Andre.
But if we don't have bad debts and overdue, with this means we sell good. I mean, all of this together, and Ludo, I believe Ludo has enough to say. I mean, much to add to this. Let's ask him.
Well, a lot of the things that I think have been mentioned by Joseph. Maybe starting an observation that is interesting. Neither Joseph nor I, in our introduction, mentioned the word collection, right? We have not mentioned collection as being the kernel or the main activity of credit management, which is unfortunately still the case in many companies. Collection is, of course, important, but that's the end of the process. When things go wrong, then you need to start with a collection process, and then indeed you need the right techniques and the right technical people and the right instruments to do this. But when you have to go to a very long and difficult collection procedure, that is probably may have something to do with the fact that all the previous things that credit management should be doing were not optimal or were not perfect. Credit management means that you manage your credit and that you can intervene and that you can avoid that you go to long and difficult collection procedures. Now, one of the things that Joseph also mentioned, and where I think it's interesting to give some additional considerations is, let's say, this relation with customers that has been intensified now due to this COVID pandemic, but this thing that I hope will last in the future also when we are going back to normal business. Our relation with the customer has changed. Our relation with the customer has changed because, first of all, the way we contact them has changed. As Joseph mentioned, instead of just sending them an email or calling them on the phone, we can see them because Zoom or other communication methods have become popular and accepted. So customers do accept today that we invite them not for a phone call, but for a Zoom meeting. And seeing them face to face is something completely different than just calling them on the phone. This means that the relation and the kind of relation you can build up with customers has become more intense, but also, as Joseph also mentioned, that means that our people need more negotiation skills. This also means that besides all the technical training that we give to our credit management staff, we must make sure that they are also that they have the right negotiation skills, that they are very familiar with all the new methods of contacting and working together with our customers. Another important point is indeed that we must find out as soon as possible why customers are not paying. And we must take the right decisions there. When customers do not pay because they don't want to pay in time, this needs a different approach from customers who are not able to pay. When they don't want to pay, then the whole game of building up the good customer relation and the negotiations, then that game will start. And that's also the moment where we will need our sales colleagues to work together with us to convince customers that they should, let's say, that they should also execute their part of the contract that we have. We have delivered goods and services, they have to pay. But that is, let's say, something completely different than the customers who are in trouble. And we see that more and more customers during this pandemic have had financial problems, that they have cash flow problems. In that case, it's very important for us to know and to decide which of our customers can count on our support. And that means also, and there we come back to this integrated part of credit management, that the first thing we should do for making the right decisions in that area will be to know how much we can afford to grant additional credit. So the starting point will always be to take a good look at our own potential. How strong are we financially? Do we have sufficient reserves? And if we have, and we have more reserves than our competitors, we're very lucky. Because in that case, we can build up a better relationship with those customers who are in a temporarily weak position, but who have a huge potential in the future. If we can help them now by giving them a payment plan, by granting longer term credit terms, then we may build up our relation with them in the future that may be a very long-lasting one, and that may be a very profitable one. So this is important that we have as much information from the customers as we can, but also along with our internal information, and we must make very good decisions on what to do with what kind of customers. It may even, and that's the difficult part sometimes, it may be even, in some cases, it may be necessary to, let's say, to stop the relation with some customers. Stop the relation with customers when they are no longer able to pay their bills, when they are no longer able to continue their activities on a normal base. Well, then we should, in some cases, take that hard decision to stop the relation. Not necessarily stop the relation forever, but it can be a temporary stop. But let's say that those are the difficult cases.
Call a spade a spade.
Pardon?
To call a spade, sometimes it is necessary.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. There may, of course, also be some exceptional cases where you see that we have to stop delivering goods to customers who cannot pay for the moment. But in some cases, it may be good and may be necessary to inform them that whenever they are back in business, we will be there to help them. And by the way, helping customers could go beyond just offering them payment plans. We can, with all the knowledge that we have from the market, we and our sales colleagues and our colleagues from production, from marketing and so on, we may help our customers in finding solutions for other problems that have nothing to do with credit, that have nothing to do with financing or cash flow. That may be problems that have to do with their supply chain. Customers who have problems with finding the right raw materials. If we have a good view on the market, we may be able to find out among some of their potential suppliers new ways to supply them with certain goods. We may help them redefine some of the products and the services that they are offering on the market. So there is more that we can do given our knowledge of the market. And we do have, as Josef mentioned also, we do have time and the opportunities to do so now. We can intensify the relation with some of our customers, going beyond just offering credit. We are part of the customer relation, and we are an important part of it. And that can be much more than just doing the traditional tasks of credit management, and definitely much more than just collection.
Well, thank you, Ludo. I'm impressed with today's discussion. Thank you very much. I was thinking about that deeply. Again, first of all, friend in need is a friend indeed. And during the hard times, I was applauding, standing when I've read the article by Josef that in this hard crisis pandemic time, we need to find a way to maintain supply chains, to get finance somewhere and to bring it to our customer, to maintain relations, because if the customer is gone, by the means of bankruptcy or whatever it is, we don't have that cash flow. We don't have that cash flow too. This is it. So we need to be creative. We as credit managers supposed to be smart enough. And even if we deliver, as I said, this could be, in terms of numbers, it could be low overdue, less bad debts, more sales, more profitable sales. Whatever way we define, we're supposed to be smart enough, understanding different sides of business. And I would like to turn to Ludo's topic. This one thing, having more resources, and another thing is to better understand them and better understand their use. And to me, this is where credit managers could make real difference, understanding how to make the best use of available resources to make sure we are more competitive, we deliver better service to a customer, we are deliver better terms to the supply chain. And again, going beyond, we can help customers with their credit functions, using expertise, using everything, and make sure this everything just works, even though we got crisis outside. That's more or less my opinion. And again, we are coming back. We have to collect, so from time to time, we have to control, but most part of job in delivering these outstanding results, whatever we define them, supposed to stay on the stage of terms. If we got proper terms, if we create conditions, I mean, a couple of times I was writing about that, simply saying, we from time to time, we need to collect, but first of all, the job of credit manager is to create conditions and situation where customers pay themselves, so we got less efforts on collection, just like that. And we already covered, I mean, our last question, what practices companies could use in order to achieve outstanding results, because we didn't focus on real tangible results. They are quite obvious. Obviously, we know that all these different results are supposed to be delivered together, but we already started to discuss what practices could be done in order to achieve outstanding results for the company. Maybe you got something to add before we turn to questions from the audience.
Yeah, Andrei, what I would like to mention as well, because we are missing it, I think, is
whatever
tics or the best practices, if you want to call them practices, the best practices to manage accounts receivable.
Yeah.
Because very often I find, even in large international companies, they either collect and categorize the customers geographically, or they categorize their customers according to the amount due. However, I always suggest, irrespective of the industry, in generally speaking, I always suggest to categorize, first of all, your existing customers, your accounts receivable, in terms of payment behavior of the customer. We are talking here about payments. And therefore, in my opinion, again, and applying some marketing concepts, if we are talking about payment behavior, Therefore, the accounts receivable should be categorized according to the payment behavior of the customers, so that we would know, and our resources, as they have already been discussed, our resources are what they are. Our resources are always limited. Therefore, we should categorize our accounts receivable according to the payment behavior. Why? So that our limited resources would be utilized in a more effective and efficient manner when it comes to collection, to collecting our dues. Because if we don't categorize, what will happen is that we start calling our customers either by the amounts or by alphabetical order or geographical regions. And we tend to forget why and who am I talking to. If we categorize first and foremost according to the payment behavior of that particular customer, we would know what tactics should I use to make that customer pay. If I know that that customer is a late payer because he is waiting for your telephone call or for your Zoom call or for your Teams call, just pick up your phone or send him a link, a Zoom link or a Teams or a Teams. Give him a call and tell him, hi, Andri, you know that your payment is due next week. Could you kindly effect your payment and you will receive the payment. However, if you don't pick up that phone call, that telephone, he will never affect that payment. So that's category, one of those categories. There are other categories. For example, another category which comes to mind is, and I already referred to this category, those customers who are not paying us because they perceive that they have an issue. And unless you resolve that issue, they will never pay you. And therefore, invest your time in these people. Don't waste your time trying to get paid from those small percentage of your customer base who you know, if you categorize properly according to the payment behavior, who you know they will never honor their payments. And these, I call them defaulters. The other customers, we need those customers, although they are late payers. They are still profitable. But don't waste your time in the small percentage, the 5%, 3%, I don't know how many there are, who are literally there to default, to default you, because they are doing this not only to you, but also to your competitors. Don't waste your time on those. Give them to the lawyers, give them to collection agencies, I don't know, whatever. But use your time wisely and pick up the phone and try to resolve issues if there are customers who are not paying you because there are issues, or pick up that phone to remind your customers, because if you don't remind them, they won't pay. But if you remind them, they will pay. So use your time wisely.
I agree. I think it's good. It's good to keep track on the payment behavior of all your customers, and indeed adapt your actions to this. There's one other funny thing that once happened to me. You know, some companies are doing their collection based not on the amounts outstanding, but on alphabetical lists. So I once, for some people, I told them, if you want to start up a business and you don't want to pay your bills on time, just make sure that your company's name starts with a Z. You will always be on the bottom of the list, and they never will get you for the collection.
Find a supplier with such a policy.
It's but you know, there are indeed, as Josef also mentioned, we have some customers who are very creative in finding or discovering disputes, or let's say creating disputes. I think in that case we must be careful. In some cases it may be, well, it may be profitable for us to let's say transfer them to our competitors. Because if they are really bad payers, then they may require a lot of work. And when they are small customers with small profit margins, they may eat all the potential profit that we have by all the efforts that we have to do. So disputes is a very tricky thing. I think the main point is, of course, always to make sure that we find the reasons of the dispute and that we discover as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, whether the dispute is correct or not. And sometimes we have some companies who are really using and abusing this. You know, some of, especially when the equilibrium and the relation between the customer and the supplier is not really very equilibrated. When you are a small supplier with a huge customer, they may find all kinds of tricks to pay late or to pay only part of the invoice and so on. We have seen some very bad behaviors. There's any of the people who are attending here from that sector, but the big retailers are famous for inventing all kinds of reasons to pay late or to pay only part of the invoice or to include all kinds of deductions and so on. So that's what they do is, let's say, they make the whole control process complicated. And they do this on purpose, just to make sure that every time that there's something in their message or in their communication that you do not understand, because they don't want you to understand it, they are winning some time, right? So there it's very critical to try and make sure and make clear from the start what you expect from them. But that's not always easy when you are a very small supplier to a very big customer. When they are setting the rules, that makes it a lot more difficult. And there again, I think the relation with your sales colleagues becomes very important. And we have seen, that's an interesting point now, coming back to the situation that we have been living for the last, well, let's say 13, 14 months now. We have seen that in many companies, the relation between credit management and sales has improved tremendously, because more and more salespeople have seen and have noticed how important this credit management is, how important this function is in maintaining the good relation with the customer. And that is, of course, a situation that we must make sure that we can continue it. We must make sure that in the future, our sales colleagues will still listen to us or will come to see us credit management for some advice about what they have to do with the specific customer. Those are the new things that we have seen appearing now in this crisis. And we must make sure that we maintain that momentum in our relation with the salespeople based on the relation we have with the customers. That's a very important lesson, I think, from this pandemic. And that's a lesson that we should definitely make sure that we understood them for the future. Okay.
We cannot hear you, Andri.
Yeah. Andre, you're mute.
You're freezed, Andri. Check your internet, please. Ludo was loud and clear, but we can't hear you.
And now, oh, now I believe you now hear me.
Yeah,
you're back. Yes, indeed.
I think this is one of the greatest outcome we got from pandemic, that it helps us to actually to win that famous story about sales and credit conflict. So if we needed pandemic to fight that and and win, I believe pandemic already brought us good news. Paul made a very interesting, nice comment, like alphabetically crazy. I always use that story, like, when Albert Einstein was receiving a Nobel Prize, he was asked what he thinks about infinity, and he said, "I know only two infinities: the space and the human being stupidity." And then he added, "But I'm not sure about the space. I'm not sure about the universe." So I mean, people used to do. I mean, people are doing many crazy things, and in terms of collection, and just summarizing, you two, and adding my 2 cents into discussion. I think when we are segmentizing customer portfolio, we need to do, first division line should be between customers and debtors. There are debtors who suppose only pay. We need to push money to get money from, and say goodbye in nice way and forget about. Sometimes debtors, but we still need to cooperate even with debtors. And then customers whom we need to find really right balance to deal with. And about overdue and about reasons for overdue, what I've discovered throughout my career is that there is one of the crazy and most stupid things is to judge on overdue without knowing reason. There are many reasons for non-payment which are in hands of supplier, and too many suppliers are discovering they got dispute with customers only when customer didn't pay. Just like, okay, customer didn't pay, then we start to call them, then we understand. So that's the thing I always suggest to companies, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to reduce your overdue, one thing to do, and try to discover and try to resolve your disputes before the due date. Too many companies know about the numbers, know about the disputes only when customer didn't pay. They don't pay attention at all. And this, what makes a difference. And coming back to relations with customers, I've heard so many nice stories from credit management, from my credit management colleagues, like, we are doing good job in terms of collection, in terms of control, in terms of risk assessment, whatever, but we are not seen. And then we just need to bring more visibility. I think, Joseph, you mentioned that in the beginning. What I'm trying to say, credit function is supposed to do something different if it is not seen. We cannot become more visible if we continue to do things which we used to do before. This is more customer orientation. Famous conflict with sales. We need to try to speak with them, and it's obviously this means education, sales about why credit is important, but it is also important to learn from sales what it takes to sell, what it takes to win the contract, what it takes, and how credit could be helpful about that. To my experience with, I don't know, thousands of salespeople, what I discovered, if credit management is able to help them to sell by finding better solution, finding better data, better understanding of market and company's capability, they become friends of sales, very valuable friends of sales, really credit partners. And this, again, the same story, by the way, with other departments, but this, again, what makes credit function great, both in terms of relations and in terms of tangible results. In the end of the day, better work with other teams brings lower overdue, less bad debts, and more sales, and so on and so forth. Because to my understanding, credit function itself is a unique function which has many stakeholders, but it becomes successful by making successful others. Something like that.
Yep.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are more or less done with our today's agenda. We didn't have even a hope to answer all the questions, which might be connected with greatness of credit function. But again, following the same Jim Collins, since we are not able to answer all the questions, we just need to make sure, and we just try to make sure we set right questions. Every credit function is supposed to ask itself how they could deliver outstanding results to business. We got Q&A session, so please ask your questions. Raise your hands, and I will try to see if you would like to do that in voice, or otherwise you can type it in chat. There was a question, and you know, Tim Lane already answered, gave his answer and his expert opinion, whether or not trade finance function must be part of credit management. To me, this is pure organizational issue, but we got trade finance is kind of specific, working with banking instruments, working with LCs and bank guarantees and, you know, all insurance and everything. But whether or not this trade finance should be part of credit management, or it could be separated. Do you have any opinion on that?
That's a very interesting and very desirable purpose that we could have, but I think it's limited to organizations that are really very well organized and very professional. I mean, we must also think a bit about, let's say, one of the roles that we have as credit management associations, that the education of all those companies who are not really doing their credit management very professionally. I mean, when I refer to this alphabetical list of debtors, that's a very good example of a company that is not really doing some credit management. They are just on Friday afternoon, they are calling some of their debtors to get some payments in, which means that, and this group is larger than what we think, because we don't know them, because we don't see them, they don't hear them, they are not interested in credit management. And there we have a huge role as credit management associations, and I believe that Joseph will agree with me, that we should not only emphasize the professional players or all those credit managers who already have the education, who have the tools, who have the knowledge to do their credit management professionally. We should also pay some attention to all those who still do not have a professional credit management, and to try and convince them and to give them the tools and the knowledge to do this professionally. I don't know the people who are attending this session now, but I'm afraid that they all belong to the first group, those who are already working professionally on credit management,
Majority of them, yes,
and who want to deepen their knowledge, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
To the extent it is known to me, majority of our today's audience are from credit.
Yeah, well, you also see it on the kind of questions that are asked and the kind of remarks that we see in the chat. Those are not people who know nothing about credit management. They are asking very relevant questions and giving very relevant observations. So coming back to the initial question, yes, financial knowledge of trade finance, knowledge of all the instruments that are available and that are necessary for the professional, let's say, financial management, treasury management, credit management, they all go together. But in many companies, I think they don't have the right maturity or the right knowledge and the specialized people to do this. And smaller businesses, I'm afraid, cannot afford to acquire all this knowledge. They may try to, and it's good that they are aware of all the things that they don't know, and to try to optimize and compensate their lack of technical knowledge by doing the things that they can do very professionally and very with very concise and very good procedures. But let's say in practice, some of the tools that we could be using are only available for really big and very well organized and professional organizations.
Joseph?
To be honest with you, I don't have anything to add with what Ludo said about trade finance, because I think it all depends on the size of the company, first of all, and the culture as well of the company, because it plays an important role, culture. As Ludo said, I mean, going back to the question, credit management should be part of the whole process, as I already said, and therefore it should be part of the whole equation, including trade finance. Because what we're saying is cash in and cash out. So we are there, the people working in the field of credit management, we are there to ensure that cash is coming in together with trade finance. And we should make sure that there is enough cash which needs to go out in terms of paying bills and also to continue purchasing so that our stock, if we're talking about, if we're referring to companies who are reselling or manufacturing, we should make sure that there is enough money to continue buying the raw materials or the materials in order for us to have enough product to sell. Obviously, when it comes to the service sector, it's a totally different sector, and this does not come in.
My position, thank you very much, Joseph. Thank you very much, Ludo. I will try to add a couple of words. When I was trying to think about successful credit function or optimal credit function, I just found that if we look a very detailed view, there would be about 50 to 60 credit management tasks within the credit management process. There would be groups like defining optimal credit terms. There would be group of tasks related to control and group of tasks related to collection. But the real job of a credit manager is to establish real culture which makes everyone involved in fulfillment of these tasks working together and make sure they do that in most effective and most possible effective way. It is done. So coming back to trade finance, it could stay, and very often, by the way, for this credit function, some tasks and some sub-functions could be outsourced to outside, like external collection, like external credit analysts. And within the groups, like very often we can see people who allocate cash are sitting outside of accounting or even sitting outside of credit management department. The same story could be with the trade finance, but as long as all these functions working together effectively, it doesn't matter which manager or which department or even part of sub-organization they belong to. If they exercise the same culture of, as Joseph rightly said, cash in and cash out, better service to customers, faster cash. Again, from other side, if to establish such a culture, it is necessary to make trade finance subordinate to credit management. This should be done. Or if the policy of a company is to make sure that the whole portfolio is covered by trade finance instruments, this could be the case, for instance, in trading business where the margin is low and the impact of one bad debt is actually bankruptcy for the company. Even credit management could report to trade finance, whatever drastic it might sound. The thing is, the company is to establish credit culture where everyone works together for the same final result. Just like that. Any other questions? We still have 15 minutes to answer, and great comment from Lane. Some academic qualification combine credit management and trade finance with the training program. One positive of that is it extends the knowledge of the student and their ultimate capacity to fulfill a variety of roles. Could not agree with that more. Another comment, credit management need to make the wider organization of the aware of all intrinsic links that we have to their roles, absolutely. And sit together with all the stakeholders, make sure that credit function performs its stakeholder management properly, and make sure the needs of all the stakeholders, internal and external, are properly discovered and fulfilled. Otherwise, this function would be, could not be simply doing their job rightly. Not even without even speaking of delivering good results or great results or whatever they are. Real understanding of needs of internal and external customers. Any other question?
Andrei, if I may,
Please.
you touched a little bit about outsourcing certain functions.
Yes.
I'm not against and I'm not in favor, because it all depends on, as you rightly said, on the culture of these functions. And
Yes.
culture is extremely important. However, when an organization outsources some of the functions, including the credit function, that organization should make sure that, first of all, it does not affect the customer relationship. Because very often,
No way.
Very often, I experience some companies who outsource part of the credit function, the collection function. And unfortunately, the company would then lose contact or some of the contact with the customer. So that is important to take it on board. And before you outsource, you make sure that your relationship with your customer will still be maintained. Secondly, when you outsource, you have to be careful and do some maths, because sometimes it may not be economically viable. However, if you don't have the resources, the appropriate resources, and going to Tim Lane's suggestion here, I know that Tim is always encouraging us to continue our studies, and rightly so. And well done, Tim, keep it up. If you don't have these people who are competent, who are skilled enough to manage these functions, obviously the best way to do it is to outsource your functions or part of your functions. So it depends on, you have to do some homework before you outsource. So I'm not against or in favor. I'm just pointing these issues out, so that before you outsource, you make sure that your strategy or your tactic will be beneficial and will not turn out to be something which you lose business, because
absolutely
you should think twice before you do that.
I got an answer to that, because I mean, you started, you already mentioned collection. In terms of outsourcing, as you remember, we need to properly distinguish customers and debtors. To me, collection from customers must be done by people who know them the best and who maintain relations. And only collection from debtors with whom we actually finalize relations could be outsourced. Because in very general terms, we could outsource specific tasks with a certain very specific level of service, but we could not outsource culture making or culture building, and we could not outsource decision making. They're supposed to stay internally as an extension of a company's strategy, company's culture, if you want. Therefore, job of credit analyst could be outsourced, but job of credit manager who maintains relations with customer, who speaks with customer, who understands their needs, supposed to stay internally and even given to salespeople from, sometimes in several things. Therefore, decision making and culture could not be and should not be outsourced by definition. Specific tasks could be given to somebody who can do it better or cheaper or whatever it is, whatever reason it is. But we are coming here.
Or in a better way. Or in a better way.
Yeah, in a better way. We don't know. I mean, I used to be an outsourced, and we got cases where we do credit analysis. Yeah, for our companies. Just like given very simple example. The company has very limited number of headcount, and they got 25 customers. They won't have time, neither time nor resources to do proper credit analysis for 25 customers. Therefore, they need somebody to do that job to make sure that, proper job of credit analyst is done. But decision making stays with the company. And what to do afterwards should stay with the company. And here we are coming to the interesting topic: what's the role of a credit manager? Because great credit function starts with the credit manager who is establishing credit culture, who leads that and who establishes all the standards. And having such a person, having such a in the heart of this organization, yeah, in the very center, who is leading that, we may afford outsourcing or not outsourcing elements of function. But if we don't have that culture internally, every move would be wrong. Because if we don't have strategy, if we don't have real system, every move could be wrong and deliver absolutely results contrasting with what is expected. Maybe Ludo would like to add something to that.
Yeah, well, I think most of the important arguments have been mentioned, but I still can imagine that in some cases outsourcing is possible. I mean, outsourcing means that indeed, as Joseph mentioned, you risk of losing the customer relation function that credit management has, right? And that customer relation is not only part of the credit manager as such, but also in the collection process should play a role. However, I can imagine that in some cases, when you have lots of very small customers, where this individual customer relation is not really important, and the efficiency of the collection process is the important part of it. And in that case, it could be justified. But in many other cases, I think there's a huge risk, and you must definitely be conscious of the fact that your credit culture, as we have mentioned it now, credit culture will not necessarily be respected when you start outsourcing it. Outsourcing credit culture is something that you can make sure that everybody within your own organization is aware of and is respecting. But that will be more difficult when it's someone who is very far away from you and very far away maybe also from your customers who is doing this part of the process. So in that case, let's say in cases where your credit culture and your corporate culture is not really a critical issue in the collection process, you could afford to outsource it. But as long as you really have customers with whom your relation should be maintained and should be good, then I think it may be much better to keep it in-house, to make sure that every customer contact reflects this credit culture and this respect for the customer and the kind of customer relation that you want to obtain.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are not, there is no two similar or even two absolutely similar credit function. And actually, this is the job of credit management, to make sure that function is set up in the most optimal way for the business. There is an interesting question. Do you believe that zero billing queries is a dream, or it is possible, and have organizations accepted that queries are a part of their company culture by having an AR dispute management department? I mean, could we achieve? I mean, I believe with my restricted understanding of English, I understood that whether or not we could achieve zero number of queries, I mean, disputes. Paul, please rephrase to at least for me, for whom English is a third language in life.
No problem, Andre. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Basically, is it a dream that we can get to a point in organizations where there's zero queries? Because like I'm speaking on behalf of my organization, we have a team specifically that looks, a team of 10 people specifically that looks after disputes on invoices.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm wondering, can we come to a place where there's no billing disputes?
I
Or
don't
is
know
it just a dream?
what religion you have, Paul.
Sorry, Joseph?
I don't know what religion you have.
I mean, religious topics are prohibited here. Sorry.
I'm Catholic, and
Me too.
my answer is, when we go to heaven, yes, there will be.
Good answer. Good answer.
I think it is well, the ideal world is that, but who is living in an ideal world, Paul?
Yeah. Ludo, what's your opinion about that?
I think you can do all the efforts you can to make your complete, let's say, your sales process, your billing process, and your collection process as professionally as possible, and try and go to zero billing queries. But there's one element that you cannot control completely, and that's the bloody customer. When he's not willing to do what you expect him to do, or what you would like him to do, I think there's, well, and that's actually also, let's be positive, that's what makes our job so fascinating and interesting.
Yeah.
If there were no problems with our customers, well, we would all be out of a job. Just imagine.
I believe so. I believe so. We're supposed to do something else.
But my opinion on it would be that if we can get these people that are these 10 people that are working on disputes, even if we can reduce that and get them more into credit management, the credit function, as in collections and credit, creating customers, or doing more credit checks on customers.
Yeah, but Paul, if I may, everything is relative. Are we talking about a huge organization, or are we talking about a very small organization? Like,
yeah,
you got 10 people managing
10
disputes.
people,
It's supposed to be a big issue.
yes, to be a global organization, a food ingredients organization. Yeah.
So I would expect to have 10 people on settling disputes. I mean, it's quite natural. But if we're talking about a small organization having I don't know, the same number of people doing the same that job, I would question that, and I would say, look, you should come up with a proper strategy.
Yeah.
So it is all relative. It's all relative.
Yeah. Okay.
Paul,
okay.
I would add just a couple of words to that, because I was already mentioning disputes. To me, what's more important, I mean, obviously the organization is supposed to work on the quality of delivery, on quality of documents and stuff like that, because preventive measures normally are more cost effective than reactive ones. Again, if you got 10 people, I believe they got enough things to do. But the thing is, this, first of all, the company is supposed to make sure itself that disputes are resolved before the due date, so they have the lowest possible impact on payments, on customers' payment behavior, just by not giving customer an excuse for non-paying. Yeah, because
absolutely.
In terms of credit management, I used to say that actually we as credit managers are those who are removing all the obstacles on the way of the cash back to our bank account. But, we used to say cash is king, but cash is coming from sales. And we can repeat this motto: sale is not completed until it is actually paid for. But in order to ask for cash, we need to make sure we sold first. And if we as company didn't fulfill our contractual obligation, this means that we didn't sell yet. So I believe,
Andrew, if I may,
yes,
we received a very interesting comment from Victoria Valadet.
yeah,
if you can read it.
yeah. I just finished my sentence. So
okay, sorry.
So that this is the thing. So we need to make sure, together with customer service department, with billing teams, and with logistic team, that everything works smoothly. And okay, now interesting comment. I mean, in my experience, meeting the customer expectations to limit disputes starts with the sales process and ensuring that there is a strong front-end process. In my organization, we have one owner for the account who handles the customer relationship, collection, and dispute.
You can do another chat of 1.5 hours discussing this issue.
Absolutely. And I just add to, just to make sure to demonstrate the more support to Victoria, to what she just said. This is actually the role of a credit manager. And I always say the best collectors are those sales and credit managers, because many person who collects cash just seeing overdue payment could not be as successful as a credit manager who knows customers' history, who knows customer financial states, who knows all the history in terms of disputes and everything. And this person just take a form, says 2 words, and put it down, and the issue solved. Where the collector, who is doing all this stuff, supposed to do a whole investigation which takes hours. Therefore, yes, absolutely. So we need to look back, and that's the story behind credit management. In order to be successful, we need to do job with other functions and see what we can add to what they do. Absolutely, like this.
And educate your customers, because I suppose, Paul, that you have done all the possible things within your own organization to minimize the impact of disputes, but you should try and educate your customers. But if you have that many disputes, I suppose that many of them are just due or thanks to the creativity and, let's say, reluctance of your customers to pay their bills in time. And then it's very difficult to just cure it unless you want to run out of business.
Ludo, like in our organization, the majority of disputes that are raised are the customer is correct. Like we might have salespeople that are agreeing prices but not getting them updated in the system on time, and then that's obviously brings about a whole load of invoices that are being sent out. But the majority of the customer is correct, you know, and they're not delaying tactics. So I
Yeah.
think it's down to the process
Well,
more
can I
than
ask you a
anything.
question?
It's corporate
In-
culture and let's say the awareness with your sales team of the importance of having things right from the first time. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, Paul, can I ask you a question? What
Yes.
would be the role of the credit manager or the credit practitioners in your particular organization? Because you're saying that you have probably almost all the disputes. The customers are right, correct? So
Correct.
what is the role that the credit function is taking in that case?
Well, basically, we're split up now. We'd have an AR manager, then we'd have separate teams. One collections team, we'd have a cash applications team that do all the banking and allocations, and then we'd have our dispute management team, and then separately we'd have an MDG team, master data team, that looks after the setup of customers. So it's very segmented. So, you know, I myself, I'd be a team leader for one of the collections teams. And of course, it all falls down on us then when all the mistakes are made, when we go to try and collect cash. So yeah, that's why I was asking, is there anyone that can?
Yeah, I believe you can do something about fragmentation of the function. And yeah.
No, I think the one who has the key in this case would be the CEO of the company, who must impose on all the others that they should respect the rules and consider everything that's necessary in terms of let's say, credit management and all that is implies. But you need support from top management to get this kind of things going on. If your salespeople can do whatever they want, then your job is a bit harder.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Correct.
Verbal contracts.
So we are just a bit behind the schedule, but since I believe we found a couple of ways to solve the issue of Paul. Paul, thank you very much for your comments.
No, thank you. It's been very interesting. Thank you.
I do thank to everyone who found a way and the possibility and time or whatever it took to participate in our today's discussion. Thank you very much for all of your comments and questions. My personal thanks to my co-speakers, Ludo, Joseph. I do thank you very much for agreeing and holding today's event.
Andre, I thank you for this opportunity. I really enjoyed it. And I thank all the participants who are with us today. Thank you. And obviously, I thank Ludo for being always there, supporting these arguments in his big knowledge and experience.
Okay, thank you all. I found it very interesting this afternoon, so it was nice to be there.
Thank you very much, Ludo, for your great contribution. And stay tuned. Credit Chats continues. And in a couple of weeks, we will do another event in English. And there would be interesting topic, I promise.
Okay.
So have a nice afternoon to everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ludo, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.